Hi, and welcome back to the final segment of Classical Coffee for February. I'm here again with BETSY BURLEIGH, Artistic Director of Providence Singers, which will be the chorus when we perform this Saturday Haydn's great masterpiece, The Creation. Today, we're going to talk about the choral components of this work. First, I would like to read a little bit of a quote from Haydn. Haydn, after the first public performance in Vienna, he received a letter from an admirer who was praising the work. And Haydn wrote back in a response. He says, "Often when I was struggling with all kinds of obstacles, a secret voice whispered to me," and this is what it said, "There are so few happy and contented people in the world. Sorrow and grief follow them everywhere. Perhaps your labor will become a source from which the careworn will, for a while, derive peace and refreshment." And that certainly is the case, I think, for us as we hear this magnificent work. It's a joyful and uplifting and a very simply childlike telling of an age-old story that continually impresses us, not only with its dramatic effectiveness, but also with just the sheer majesty of Haydn's maturity and its compositional skill, the mastery at the highest levels. And you know, we've talked at length about this work. We use our analogy of this is a retelling of a creation story around the fire. It's in that long tradition. One of the key elements, I think, for any story, if a storyteller is going to communicate, is that the words have to be understandable. And in the first segment, I talked about Van Sweeten's retranslation back from German into English being less than effective in some cases because of the syntax. And I know you've done some work on the choruses, and what we'll hear on Saturday will be a reflection of that. So what are the issues for you?
Well, first I should say that it's always a little scary. I would not tinker with anything except that this music is so great, and the artificial English, or the retranslated English, is so awkward. Probably the best example is from one of the most famous choruses, The Heavens Are Telling. And for instance, there's the phrase in Van Sweeten's English, "The wonder of his works declares the firmament." Now, first off, in our pronunciation, the word is firmament, and secondly, it's not exactly a word we use every day. Yeah. So there's a quick and easy fix. The firmament declares the wonder of his works, and then all of a sudden it makes sense. It's a little bit more singable. It's a little bit more understandable, and maybe Van Sweeten wouldn't have liked it, but I can't believe that Haydn wouldn't say that was an improvement. Well,
you've done a lot of work on the choruses, and then you and I sat down and did some work on the arias and the recitatives with just that idea, to remove some archaic words and in many ways return. I think what we've done is return to the meaning in the German, which probably was closer to Haydn's heart to start with, since he didn't speak English very well.
And he composed it in German, so
his compositional work was in the German text, but always with an idea that we present the story in language that's accessible to our audience. So I think we'll see how that works, but I think that's a strong point of what we're presenting this Saturday. The other thing I would like to talk about is oftentimes, you mentioned we were talking about the choruses and the strong dramatic language of these, not only in the power of the chorus, but also the contrapuntal nature of this. And Haydn, as I said at the beginning, he was so impressed by Messiah and Israel and Egypt that these stunning choruses, he burst into tears when he heard Hallelujah. He said, you know, Handel is the master of us all, and I feel like I must go back and learn everything anew. And certainly he sums up 60 some odd years of genius as a composer. in these choruses, the fugal treatments and the contrapuntal nature of all this. Can you say a little bit about those from your perspective?
Sure. Well, I would start by saying that really after the very, very beginning, after light was created, and once we get through that sort of first beginning, the chorus's function is really simple. They sing songs of praises. Mm-hmm. God did X, Y, and Z on the second day, and we sing, Yea, God. But what's interesting is each one of these choruses gets more and more complex, a little bit more and more interesting, and a little bit more and more dramatic. So even though he has to say, Yea, God, 5, 6 times, each one becomes more and more interesting, and that's genius, to take the same feeling and have to retranslate it into different music in successive times. And what I really respect every time about it is, as we go on, the ends of these choruses finish with a fugue, which we tend to think of as a dry and academic kind of form. But in Haydn's hands, they become dramatic. They have obvious and wonderful shapes. They are very, very uplifting. What he does is he takes an idea and sort of spins it and makes it deeper and fuller. It's just brilliant the way he writes.
And you would think that after a couple of hours of music that the final chorus would be like, oh, okay, we're done. But it really is the summation, energy-wise, of the entire work. Brings it all to a point, a fevered point almost. And I also love that about this work and its structure. The 6 days of creation are presented, and then the final part is the story of Adam and Eve. And it really is almost a love story. It has elements to the Singspiel of Mozart's of that time. But it is it's a duo between two very human characters. There's nothing of the fall. There's no gloom. There's no doom. It's just two very much in love people reveling in creation. It's just a masterful piece, and we know that you will love it. So we encourage you to get your tickets and join us this Saturday, February 9 at 8 p.m. at the Criterion Theater for Haydn's just incredible masterpiece, The Creation.